So Trump did it again. Let's talk about a midnight attack that could change everything. Have you guys noticed something? Every time the world starts saying, finally peace is coming, somebody presses the reset button. And this time, it happened at 3 a.m. Negotiations were happening, diplomats were shaking hands, markets were calming down, then boom, American fighter jets reportedly struck Iranian military targets. Hours later, Iran responded, missiles, military bases, the Gulf was on edge again. And suddenly, the biggest question wasn't who fired first, the real question became, was peace ever supposed to happen? Now let's be honest, international politics is starting to feel like that one toxic couple who keeps posting breakup stories on Instagram. We are done forever. 2 hours later, happy anniversary, baby. That's America and Iran. Except instead of deleting selfies, they launch missiles. According to reports, the US said its strikes targeted Iranian missile and drone facilities after attacks on shipping near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran answered by claiming it had targeted American military positions across the region. So naturally, everyone starts screaming, World War III. Relax. We have heard the title more times than Fast and Furious has sequels. The real story isn't simply the missiles, it's the timing. Think about it. Imagine you're negotiating a peace deal, you're sitting across the table, you're discussing conditions, you're arguing over every comma, then suddenly someone outside punches your brother. Are you still signing that agreement? Exactly. That is why timing matters. Critics argue that military action during sensitive negotiations destroys trust. Supporters argue that military pressure creates leverage. Either way, trust becomes the first casualty. Now, here's where it gets interesting. At the same time these diplomatic discussions were taking place, separate negotiations involving Lebanon and Israel were also being discussed. Different countries, different mediators, different interests, but somehow they are all connected. Middle East diplomacy is basically the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You cannot watch one movie. You need to watch 27 plus 3 Disney Plus series. Otherwise, nothing makes sense. And here's a bigger issue. Iran doesn't see the conflict as only about Iran. Israel doesn't see the conflict as only about Israel. America doesn't see the conflict as only about America. Everyone has allies. Everyone has proxies. Everyone has red lines. Pull one thread, the whole sweater starts coming apart. Now think about shipping. Most people hear Strait of Hormuz and immediately think, cool geography lesson. No, that's where nearly 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil passes. If shipping there becomes dangerous, oil prices react, insurance costs rise, markets panic, and somehow your gas bill in America suddenly becomes more expensive. Congratulations, you're now paying for somebody else's geopolitical drama. And here's something fascinating. Whenever politicians talk about war, they use beautiful words. Security, stability, peace, deterrence. It's like restaurants calling frozen food chef-inspired. Bro, it's still frozen. Now let's talk about Donald Trump. Supporters say he projects strength. Critics say he creates unpredictability. His supporters believe pressure forces better deals. His critics argue pressure destroys negotiations. That's why opinions about him are so divided. To one group, he's playing chess. To another, he's flipping the chessboard. Meanwhile, Benjamin Netanyahu has his own political pressures. Iran has domestic pressures. The United States has election pressures. Everybody is trying to solve international problems while simultaneously trying to survive domestic politics. Imagine trying to fix your neighbor's marriage while your own house is on fire. Now, here's a part nobody likes talking about. Every government says, we don't want war, then immediately follows it with, however. That, however, has probably started half the conflicts in modern history. Now, let's talk about media. Depending on which channel you watch, you'll hear completely different stories. One headline says, America defends freedom. Another says, America betrays peace. Another says, Iran escalates. Another says, Iran retaliates. Same explosion, different headline. It's like two football fans describing the same foul. One says he was murdered, the other says he barely touched her. So, what should ordinary people believe? Simple. Separate facts from opinions. Facts. Military strikes happened. Iran responded. Regional tensions increased. Oil markets reacted. Everything after that, motives, intentions, political narratives, those require evidence, not assumptions. Now, here's what worries economists the most. Not missiles, not speeches, uncertainty. Markets hate uncertainty. Businesses hate uncertainty. Investors hate uncertainty because nobody knows, will this stop tomorrow or is this just chapter 1? And let's not forget the human cost. Whenever headlines say precision strikes, remember, people still live near those places. Families still worry. Children still hear explosions. Wars are always discussed on television using maps. They are experienced by ordinary people using fear. So, where does this go next? There are really only 3 possibilities. Number 1, both sides step back. Diplomacy resumes. The crisis cools. Number 2, limited retaliation continues. No full-scale war, but constant instability. Number 3, one mistake, one miscalculation, one missile hitting the wrong target, and suddenly everybody gets pulled in. History is full of wars that nobody originally planned. That's why diplomacy matters. Not because diplomats are perfect, but because the alternative usually costs more in money, in stability, and most importantly, in human lives. So the next time somebody says, this conflict is happening thousands of kilometers away, remember this: oil, inflation, trade, markets, shipping, these things don't need passports. They affect everyone, including you. Because in today's world, a missile launched in the Middle East can change fuel prices in New York, stock markets in London, and election speeches in Washington, all before breakfast. That's globalization. So that's it. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, do you think military pressure helps negotiations, or does it make peace even harder to achieve? Because in international politics, sometimes the loudest explosion isn't the missile, it's a trust that disappears afterward.